nation still striving with God. So here it is. So he strives with God. Now, that name, I'm still building this up, guys. And then it was like, we'll take the roller coaster down. You're going to take the comet. All right, so you'd have to know from, never mind. Anyway, he strives with God. So later, that name was applied to the 12 sons of the Hebrew people. The 12 tribes were called Israelites by clearly identifying them with the descendants of Israel. So do you see where that comes, how that comes about? Some of you may be enlightened at this time, or you've already heard it. But this is how the Israelites got their name, or why they're called Israelites, through their forefather, Jacob, Israel. All right. You good with that? Good. So they are God's chosen people. You see, his covenant was far more than a contract. A contract has an end date. Like at work. I can't wait till my contract is done. It's like, please, God, just let me pay those bills off so I can just say, I want to retire. I don't know what I'll do, but I'll find something. No, that's a different. They have me a contract, or if I were to hire somebody, it's usually based on a skill or some sort of performance. Joe, I'm going to borrow you today, all right? You're going to hire Joe. Joe's going to remodel your bathroom. I've seen his work, so I can pick on him, and it's good. So I'm going to hire Joe, but I'm only hiring just him to do the job because of his skill for that part. I'm not coming into agreement with the entire Joe. That means I got to know Shannon, I got to have Joshua and all that. No, I just want Joe's skill. That's all I have a contract with him for. And hopefully, if he's a decent carpenter and all that, he'll be done within a week's time. Okay? And he honors his contract. Then it's done, finished. A covenant is an everlasting thing. It goes on and on and on. You all know that. So we have that, whereas that covenant with God, who is all-knowing and all-powerful and holy, entered into a covenant with Abraham and his descendants. We're weak, we're sinful, and imperfect as they were. God still entered a covenant with them. And so, yes, through Abraham, they became God's chosen people. And this, ladies and gentlemen, was confirmed on Mount Sinai, when the nation promised to do all the words which the Lord had said. Remember Moses coming down, and he said this, and if you take a look at Exodus 24 through 3, I love this. So Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord and all the judgment. See, if you're going to enter in a covenant, there's kind of like you do something, I do something. It's not a conditioned promise, but a covenant is, it's not one-sided. Amen. It's not me doing everything. Amen. It's not God doing everything. Amen. So you have to understand that. You have to do something, God's doing something. That's a covenant. That's then an agreement. Didn't he tell Abraham, all you have to do is be a blessing and be that channel through which I can bless the other nations? Well, so should you. But anyway, and me too. All right, so listen to this. He says, so Moses came down, told all the people what the Lord had said and the judgment, and this is it. And they all answered with one voice and said, all the words which the Lord has said we will do. I'm going to stop right there for a sec. Did they? Did they? I love it. Those on Facebook, they're all shaking their head. No, of course they didn't. And neither do we. Don't we enter an agreement with God? Oh, God, I'll do this. I promise. Just help me through this. I promise I'll do this. And then again, we break that covenant with God. We break that promise with God. Why would God put up with such a wavering crowd? Because why? You're right. Lori said because of the covenant. You see, of course, they broke their side of the agreement, and later on, they had to renew the covenant through King Josiah in 2 Kings 23:3. You see, God always lives up to his side of the agreement. He never breaks his promises. And that's why the Apostle Paul in Romans 11:1 says, I say then, has God cast away his people? Certainly not. For I also am an Israelite, of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. I stop and think, and I hope it gives you some thought. These Israelites, these wandering people, constantly giving God grief. He brought them out of the land from the Pharaoh, takes them on the grumbling. You heard Pastor Rocky say just a couple weeks ago where they were complaining about the food that they were getting, manna, holy food, and they're complaining about it. And yet, God still puts up with those complaining people. And I'm kind of wondering, doesn't he do the same for you and I?
Yes.
Every day. Every day. Oh, my back hurts. Oh, my arthritis. You know, yeah, you guys laugh. You know, oh, the weather. Oh, it's freezing here in Florida. You know? It's like, where's that warm? Always something to complain about. Oh, Pastor Rocky should have preached on this. Oh, why didn't Pastor Nick talk about this on Wednesday? Why does God put up with us? Because he loves us. He made a covenant with each and every one of us. We came in agreement with him when we accepted his son for the work that he did on the cross. When we accepted by faith that work, the entirety, we entered into that covenant agreement with him. So if you guys agreed to that covenant agreement, then why aren't you living it out there? Or why aren't we living it out there? Our churches should be overflowing. We shouldn't see the hedonistic stuff that's going out there on the commercials. We should see what's going out in the world, in the school, in our nation, if we're out there doing our job. Me too. So I'm not pointing the finger. So God's oath to raise up a believing children to Abraham is a lasting one. Or can I say this? An everlasting covenant. Oh, I like that. An everlasting covenant. In Genesis 22:17, it states, he says, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven. Holy camole! You can't even count those stars. Unfathomable number, yet he knows it. All right? And as the sand upon the seashore. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine all the sand when you guys walk the beaches, if we ever get to go to the beach? You know, but anyway, you know, and you're picking up the seashells and all that. But can you imagine a grain of sand? A grain of sand, just like the people. Oh my goodness. And they shall, and thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. Genesis 17:7, I want to continue on with this, and says this, and I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed, and after thee in their generations for an everlasting covenant. So, is this good news for the Jew? Yes, it is. They are God's chosen people. But what about us? The non-Jews, the Gentiles. You see, God has not abandoned his people, nor will he abandon you or I. It says in his holy word, I will never forsake thee. And I forgot the rest. Yeah, thank you. I will never leave you and I will never forsake thee. Thank you. Hebrews 13, 5 and 6. Thank you. I knew I had it. All right, so the Jews still figure prominently in God's total plan. And we as Gentiles still, it means that God can be totally trustworthy. His word can be taken at face value. As it says, thy word is truth. Amen. God's, in his inerrancy, in his word, speaks truth. So, as the Apostle Paul, how strongly stated in earlier, where it said that he wanted his own people to recognize the new and better covenant. It didn't mean that it wasn't any good. It's a new and a better covenant. And I like that. I could go into more about that. Now, here's my question to you for tonight, or for you kind of to take away. Shouldn't we as believers, and whether you're listening online, shouldn't we have, like the Apostle Paul, it's a rhetorical question. Shouldn't we have that same tenacious type attitude? When I say tenacious, it's like, I want to paint that picture like a bulldog. No, let's go even more. Pit bull. All right? Or ladies trying to get that last minute deal, and there's only one left, and they're all fighting over it at Wally World or Target or whatever. It's that tenacious attitude. It's like, I'm going to get it. And this is the way Paul was, because he was a Jew from the tribe of Benjamin, and yet he had such a heart for his own people, and yet he ministered to the Gentiles. He wanted to make sure everybody had that chance for the gift of God, the gift of the good news. So he goes without excuses. Paul, the apostle, who I want to meet that one day after, of course, Jesus, but Paul's up there too. And he goes without excuse to bring the good news to listening ears. So, what's your excuse? What's our excuse? Sure, you come on Wednesday, you come on Sunday, and that's great. I applaud you. I think it's great. You come to other classes, you come to functions. That's all great. But don't forget, the mission field is outside those doors. Not inside here. It's outside. It's at Walmart. It's at Taco Bell or wherever you go. It's at Beef O'Brady's or Sonny's. That's where the mission field is. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I close with this portion tonight, just this portion, I got a few more. There's no excuses. Now, I told you I had a little bit of homework for you today, for tonight. And I'll pass this out on the way. You see, there was this guy, and his name is Kyle Maynard. And I'll be brief with this, and we're going to say goodbye to those on Facebook, but not just yet. See, this Kyle Maynard, and I'm going to give you this paper, he lives life with no excuses type lifestyle. There's something special about this guy. I wish there was something even more special. I don't know whether he's a believer or not. But he was born with congenital something. Hang on. All right. Congenital amputee. He was born with no arms, except just down to the elbows, and no feet, just down to his knees. This guy did not stop. Drives a car, wrestles, lifts 420 pounds. And, hang on, the best is yet to come. Climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. Wow. if you took this type of tenacious attitude or this no excuse lifestyle, what would happen to Bushnell, Florida? What would happen to South Point Church and the churches in our entire area? What would happen if we took this on to get the good word out there to make sure everybody gets to hear the gospel? Amen. Awesome. So, this is going to be in the back, and then I encourage you to watch his story on YouTube. No excuses. With that, I say goodbye to you guys on Facebook. Thanks for joining it online. And if you have any questions or comments, please refer all things to Pastor Rocky at southpointchurch.net. Well, I don't have my email, so I'm not going to give you my email. But we love you guys. See you on Sunday when Pastor Rocky continues with the sermon series,